Good morning. It's the 27th of June 2024. As everyone knows, a man without wheels is a mere pedestrian, and much of my life has revolved around wheels. As you know, I was a taxi driver for most of my working life, and I worked out the other day that I probably drove over 1 million miles, and I could have gone to the moon and back twice, in fact. But it didn't start there. I mean, I had a history with wheels before, and I think it started when I was about three, I suppose, and I had a tricycle, a little wooden seat with two metal pieces either end, with the rear wheels and the front wheels bolted onto it. And it was red and yellow, I think. And I loved that tricycle. It gave me such a sense of freedom and a thrill. And one day I probably was getting a bit big for it, maybe. One day it broke. The seat broke. And I was heartbroken. And, Mum and Dad, obviously they saw how upset I was, and we took the tricycle down to Crouch End Motors, which was a little garage that used to exist at the end of our road. They supplied gas and they did minor repairs and so on. And we gave it to the man who always stood outside, and he was a tall, about the same age as my parents, which was late 30s, and I think he probably had a little eye for my mum, because he always said hello as we passed. But anyway, we took the tricycle down there, and somehow in the garage they repaired it and resprayed it, and it came back after a few days looking like new. And I was really, really chuffed, because I loved that tricycle. And anyway, I don't remember what happened to it. I grew out of it, I guess. The next set of wheels I had were roller skates, and I got quite proficient at roller skating. But one thing I never really mastered was how to stop. I used to stop primarily by turning right and crashing into the adjacent wall. And usually that was okay. I didn't do myself too much harm, and you don't get up a lot of speed on a roller skate. But one day when I was skating down a particularly steep hill near to where I live, I got up quite a bit of speed, and I was picking up speed. It was a hill. I didn't know how to stop, so the only way I knew how to stop was to crash over the wall. So I turned right, crashed into this chicken wire fence, like that. Then I looked through the fence, and there was a woman on the other side doing her gardening, like that as well. Anyway, I persevered with roller skates too. I mean, the first set of roller skates I had steel wheels, and all the neighbours used to complain when I skated up and down the road, because it was like the sound of rolling thunder, if you know what I mean, or impending Armageddon. Steel on concrete. It's not a good sound. But eventually I got rubber wheels, and things calmed down quite a bit. The next thing I remember, it may have been coincidental with that, or before or after, I don't know, but the next thing I remember was another tricycle. I had I think it was a Raleigh tricycle. It was a nice machine. It had I believe it was green, and it had like a little boot on the back with a lid on it. You could lift it up, put things in there, and yeah, you could get quite a bit of speed on it. It was a proper tricycle. I suppose I would have probably been about 7 or 8 maybe, and I was allowed to go round the block, but I wasn't allowed to cross the road. And so round the block was about, I suppose it was about getting on for about a third of a mile, something like that. And you could go round without crossing any other roads at all. One thing I do remember about that though was when I was cycling down my road, which is a slight hill, and the town, well, the local bully was walking in the opposite direction, and I suppose he had what probably we'd call, I don't know, psychological problems. Anyway, his name was Peter. Anyway, it was unavoidable. I tried to stay away from this person as much as I could, but I was going one way, he was going the other. Eventually, we were about to meet, and he sort of picked me up, picked the tricycle up bodily, and shoved me into a tree. You know, if you don't, and then eventually his mum, he's tired and no doubt harassed mother, who was ahead of him, looked back and said, "Oh, come on, Peter," and so he sort of dropped me, left me there. Anyway, it was a sanitary lesson: stay away from Peter. He's not good. Anyway, so then I suppose I graduated onto 2 wheels. I had a bicycle eventually. My mother was very much against me having a bicycle because I think she had witnessed a bicycle accident in which somebody was killed, and I think it sort of it left a bad image in her mind, and I'm probably right too. And anyway, I eventually I got a bicycle. Well, another thing that happened was I periodically, argued for a bicycle. I need a bicycle. I want a bicycle. I would love a bicycle. All those things. And one day, my sister came home from school. My older sister. And she had this terrible story. She had been walking home from school with some friends, and they had witnessed a bicycle accident, and this person had broken their leg, something like that, or been hit by a car and run into the curb. And she was telling my mum this, and mum was touching and acknowledging her story and so on. All I could hear was bicycle. I didn't hear the rest of the story. I just got bicycle. And so I said, "Mum, can I have a bicycle?" No, it wasn't the right time to ask, so I didn't get one on that occasion. But eventually I did get one. I was about 13 years old, and I got a bicycle, and I love that bike. I think in the first few weeks I rode and rode and rode. I used to go miles on that bike, and I loved it so much that I didn't even bother to eat. I lost quite a bit of weight, and I got pretty fit too riding that bike. But I used to ride it to school, and there were bicycle sheds down the bottom of the playground where you could lock up your bike and You could always nip round the back and have a cigarette as well, but that's another story. But in the bicycle sheds, so you put your bike. So I used to ride my bike to school every day, and of course it wasn't long before, well, somebody opened their door, their car door, as I was going along, because I was quite close to the cars. I hit the door, went over the top, slid along the road on my back, got totally beaten up. The bike was wrecked. It kind of took the guilt off the gingerbread, and the man who did it, I mean, the man who opened the door, he was concerned, and he paid for the damage, and he was concerned about what happened to me. But kind of, for a little while anyway, it put me off the whole idea of having a bike. And when it was repaired, I was persuaded by my mum that I could sell it, and that would be a good opportunity to sell the bike. So I did, and I didn't really have another bike for a while. So anyway, that was me with bicycles and all other kinds of wheels. And I didn't really have anything else until I was 17. As soon as I was old enough, I learned to drive, and well, that's a whole different story. But I will come back to that. Anyway, I'll see you later.